George, what role do you see of the transition that has been happening over the last over the 20th century within France on the French public opinion and where they see themselves in the world, and the sense of French identity? I mean, going beyond migration for now and actually looking at the French role in the world.
Well, first of all, I didn't think today's discussion was about Zionism, and Michel is making it that way. And I think that
that's the underlining.
Well, I'm afraid that it plays into a lot of superstition in the Middle East, which suggests that all the problems in the Middle East that are created by their own governments or by their own faults of various kinds must come from Israel, and the idea that a lot of them have, that when you see an American, a Brit, a European, he must be an Israeli. I mean, this is this is really playing into that, and particularly for your viewers, I think it's a little too much. I should remind you that someone like Sarkozy, who may become the next president, is an immigrant from Hungary. And this is quite unusual, too. If he became the next president, this already shows that the French are prepared to vote for someone like that. And you have lost a lot of the Le Penism that says, you know, we go back to the Gauls and we are the pure race and the other races are secondary. You spoke about the imperial past, colonialism. Sure, that was very important in World War I. After World War I, World War II pretty well ended that. And it's not the creation of one particular state that ended it. It's the fact that the world changed after World War II, and it is still changing. And I think one other factor about this election is that everybody, at least except for Le Pen, is in their 50s. They're all about the same age, which is young for France or for other countries. And as a result, they are looking to the new generation. So, as I said many times here, since one of the main, if not the main issue, is work, and a lot of it has to do with work for the young, we are looking at possible ways of doing that. And the British model appeals to people such as Sarkozy and to a lot of the French youth who run over to Britain to start businesses which they cannot do in France. And that in itself is showing how France is changing. The idea that France is important, yes, most people like their country. There is a patriotism in France, of course. But they are open to immigrants, and not just European, but others. And the Le Penism, which is trying to find ways of bringing in the people that Le Pen wanted to keep out, but bring him in by saying nice things about some of them in the Middle East, is, I think, not going to work. It's not going to fool anybody, because people like Le Pen are well known as to what they stand for. The more interesting thing is if you have a Hungarian president, or if you have the first woman president, or for that matter, Bayrou, who is in the middle. Most people don't think he is presidential material, I gather from my French contacts, but nevertheless, it's conceivable that as a protest vote, he might challenge Sarkozy, and then who knows what might happen.
And so where do you see then, as a result of that election, French relationships with the two key players outside, the Germans and the Americans on both sides? Is this a contradiction, or is it actually a move away from the relative isolation that France has experienced in the past?
Well, I'm not sure about the relative isolation even, because I think that even people such as Chirac, even de Gaulle, even they may at times take exception to American policies and British policies. As we know, de Gaulle purposely kept the British out of the European community because he was afraid that they might get too powerful within it. Nevertheless, when moments come where there's a feeling that they are in true danger, they are the first to say. I mean, de Gaulle, Chirac are immediately rushed to the, in France, after the attacks of September 11th, the French immediately said, we are all New Yorkers and Americans. This idea of Atlantic friendship and partnership has always been there. There have been differences about what's smart to do and not, and particularly with the present American administration, which I'm not going to try to defend, even if I'm American.
I'm very
it
proud
has made
to hear you say that, sir.
many mistakes.
This is very good of you.
But the French, nevertheless, have always been friendly to the United States, and the idea that France has different views appeals, I think, to the French mind. It shows a certain amount of independence, which the French like, and it shows a certain amount of rationality in getting away from emotions, although the French are also very emotional.
Indeed, thank you. We've got about a minute to wrap up.
I would love to comment that everybody said they were New Yorkers after 9/11. After the invasion by Israel, the appalling invasion of Lebanon, people said, where are all Hezbollah now? May I just quickly quote last what Le Pen says about his outspoken attack on Sarkozy's foreign policy. He says that to put this US-style neoconservatism ahead of French interests, you have only one nationality, Sarkozyism nationality, as you ask. The French blood that you despise, much of it has been spilled to defend the liberty and independence of France. If the United States or Israel went down the path of belligerence, would you engage France at their side in a war against Iran?
Well, I think that's a very particular individual issue. I don't think there's going to be a war against Iran. I don't think that's an issue, and I don't think the American government or anybody else expects it. So that's, again, it's Le Pen trying to make a little bit of trouble so that he can get some votes.
Okay, well, thank you very much for an interesting and fiery discussion.
Yes.
and I hope that you enjoyed that as much as I did. And I hope that you can join us again next week. And thank you very much for listening and for watching us debate the French presidential elections.